What's up, YouTube? It's Heretic here. Welcome back. And today we're just doing a quick overview of the Yveltal Garbodor deck that I placed first with at a League Cup here in Columbus, Ohio this past weekend. I'm going to go over my list real quick, and then we're just going to play one game, just kind of go over it. You guys pretty much should know already how Yveltal works and all that. We've done plenty of deck videos on it before, so we're going to go over the list, play one game with it, and then I'll go over my results here before we get into a actual game action, and then the credits, I'll just kind of quick synopsis of how I did. So, this is pretty close to the list that Eric Gansman had in his latest PokeBeach article. If you guys want to check that out, I can leave a link down below. 3 Yveltal-EX to start. Deviated from the 4 copies that a lot of players are starting to run. 3 copies has always been enough for me, it seems. Evil Ball, of course, 20 plus 20 more damage, times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. Pretty easy to charge up with Max Elixir and the use of Y-Cyclone with multiple Yveltal-EX. And then Y-Cyclone, since I just mentioned it, 90 damage, plus you move an energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. Pretty solid overall attack. So 3 of those. Baby Yveltals, we play 2 Fright Knight, which can shut down the effects of all Pokemon tools in play while as your active Pokemon, and then Pitch Black Spear for a Darkness and 2 colorless, dealing 60 plus an additional 60 damage and snipe to a bench Pokemon EX on your opponent's end, and then 1 Oblivion Wing Yveltal as well. This just happens to be my favorite art of the Oblivion Wing Yveltals. 30 damage for 1 Dark, accelerating another Dark from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. 3 energy for Darkness Blade, 100. Flip a coin if tails, this Pokemon can attack next turn. It's going to be pretty rare that you use Darkness Blade, but it can help against like Regice and stuff like that. This is really more against like hammer decks and stuff like that, or late game if you start to run out of energy. Maybe you Sycamore a bunch away early. Just being able to Oblivion Wing energy back into play, and it helps us run without Super Rod in the list, which is pretty key here. So we have those as our attackers. We have a 2/2 Garb line to shut down the abilities, mainly against Garbodor, Greninja, and Volcanion. And then we have 2 Shamans for draw power. So that's our Pokemon lineup. Our items: 2 Enhanced Hammers for the Mirror Match, also helpful against anything that runs double colorless or double dragon. 4 Max Elixirs for energy acceleration, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 VS Seeker. Nothing too complicated there. Supporters, we have 4 Sycamore, 3 N, 2 Lysander, and then 4 1-of supporters. Team Flare Grunt is for the Mirror Match with a Y-Cyclone, double colorless, back to the bench. You Team Flare Grunt their 1 Darkness energy, and all of a sudden they need a switching card in order to be able to attack you again next turn, which is pretty damn solid, since Yveltal-EX will almost always have a Fighting Fury Belt. 1 Pokemon Center Lady. This is primarily for the Greninja matchup. Also, if you are able to get Garbodor down in the Gardevoir matchup, you can turn two shots into 3 shots, which is pretty damn effective. Overall, it's really the reason you play that card. 1 Olympia, just for an extra switching method, since this isn't the most mobile list, especially when Yveltal-EX typically has Fighting Fury Belt attached to it. And then 1 Delinquent, just because we only play Parallel City as our stadium. So we want to be able to work around that, and this is just a really good card. I agree with, again, what Eric Gansman had said about liking to have Delinquent in just about every list right now. I agree with that. I think it's good in almost everything at the moment as a 1-of. 2 Parallel Cities for our stadiums. Really, really good. Obviously, you know, in my opinion, best stadium right now in the format. As much as I love Rainbow Road, I don't like depending on Skyfield. And then we have a 3-3 split between Fighting Fury Belt for Yveltal-EX and then Floatstone for Garbodor. And also with Oblivion Wing Yveltal, most of the time you are going to want Floatstone there as well, so it doesn't get Lysandered and stuck in the active. Which leads us to my energy count: 4 double colorless, 9 darkness. Seems pretty effective. Without the Oblivion Wing Yveltal, you likely have to not only add Super Rod, but also go up to 10 darkness. So we're able to cut 2 cards and add this guy in, which also proves to be a pretty nice attacker in a pinch. I just don't see myself wanting to go below 2 Fright Knight Yveltals, even with the other baby Yveltal in the deck, just because of how useful Fright Knight is against any Mega Evolution deck, as well as the Mirror Match and Volcanion. Just way too many things that can work in our favor for, so I just could not bring myself to cut that down. So anyway, My matchups, I started out against Rainbow Road round 1, so pressure was on. It's a pretty even matchup with Yveltal. I was able to take an early knockout on a Shaman, and then he had another Shaman down and a Volcanion. Struggled to attack, so I was able to Lysander up his Volcanion, despite the fact that it had a Floatstone, Sick, a Fright Knight Yveltal on him, and Pitch Black Spear to take out the bench Shaman in 2 turns, and then the Volcanion the following turn while he was unable to get it out of the active spot, thus winning me the game. And since these were best of 1, that was all it took. Round 2, I went up against a Houndoom Raticate Bunnelby Millout deck. He only played 2/2 Raticate, he told me after the match. I KO'd the one Raticate that saw the board early with Fright Knight, and then another notable thing about this game, he was able to mill out 3 of my double colorless energies with Houndoom. The 4th one was in play. However, he could not get his second Raticate into play and managed to play all 4 Crushing Hammers, flipping tails on all of them. Definitely playing a key role in that matchup. Finally, he continuously Team Flare Grunted a Darkness Energy off my active Yveltal, which had 2 Darkness and a Fighting Fury Belt, but I had a hand with like 3 or 4 Darkness in it, so I just didn't play any supporters, just kept attaching every turn that he Team Flare Grunted, so I was able to maintain an Evil Ball attack for 90 damage against this Houndoom that had 1 fire energy attached to it. And ultimately that was enough to overcome and win the game in the end. So we take those. I realized 0 for 4 on Crushing Hammers. You know, you could say I got lucky there a little bit. I wouldn't deny it. But we take those, and then we get hit with Karma the following round against my buddy Andrew Dankus, who was playing Mega Scizor. I opened with a Shaman and went second, had a dead draw for a turn or 2, and that was pretty much all it took for him to get set up. I was able to come up with some attackers later on down the stretch, but it just wasn't enough to keep pace with the amount of damage he had laid down and the fact that he was up 2 prizes very early in the game. So I ended up taking the big L for that one. So down to 2 wins and 1 loss. I was paired down. I had been paired down round 2 when I lost, or round 3, sorry, when I lost. I got paired down again round 4 against a Xerneas Pancakes deck. And fortunately for me, after I struggled to draw out of a decent situation early on in the previous round, my opponent hit pretty much a brick wall in round 4, had 2 Xerneas and a Shaman, Geomancied a whole bunch of energy, but was unable to do anything with it, did not hit any supporters, as I powered up 2 Yveltal-EXs very quickly and was able to just keep evil balling, eventually knocking out both Xerneas, the Shaman, a 3rd Xerneas, and then I think Regirock was the last thing. And then right after I drew my 6th prize and the game was over, he flipped over the top card of his deck, which of course had to be a Professor Sycamore. So as you can imagine, like that late in the game, I don't know how much it would have helped him, but it still sucks to see that happen. So nonetheless, though, once again, we take those. Round 5, I got into a really close, really intense game against a Volcanion deck, and was able to get some spread damage early with Fright Knight, which was very good and helped me able to use Yveltal-EX to take a couple knockouts. We got into a real close prize exchange where he was down to, I think it was like 2 or 3 prizes, I don't remember, and I was down to 1 or 2, and he knocked out my last Yveltal-EX, so all I had was Garbodor and a couple of Shamans, so I started Sky Returning, since he had just used his Yveltal, or he had just used his Volcanion EX to knock out my Yveltal-EX, so I Sky Returned for a turn, and he had a Fighting Fury Belt on his Volcanion, so we would have had to pay the retreat, and then find a way to get it back out there, maybe a switching card, which he was unable to come up with since he had used up all his Verse Seekers and all of his switching methods, and instead, I left him with a 2-card deck. He drew his card and was unable to draw out of and managed to KO my Shaman. So from there, I top decked into an Yveltal-EX. Could have just let him deck out next turn, would have been fine. Had a Max Elixir in hand, so I was able to go to get the guarantee, bench the Yveltal Max Elixir onto it, attach a double colorless, and then attach Floatstone from hand, retreat Shaman, and Evil Ball his Volcanion EX for the game. But a crazy game considering that those last 2 cards in his deck, one was an Energy Retrieval, which was not the one he drew, and had he drawn that card, he would have won the game. So again, very close. And I went ahead and ID'd round 6 against a Mega Rayquaza Jolteon deck because I didn't really feel like tangling with Jolteons, and it was a guaranteed ID in anyway. So no reason not to. So we went ahead, went on to top 8, hit probably my worst matchup of the day against a Jolteon EX, Giratina EX, Garbodor variant, which I felt for certain I was going to end up losing. I ended up falling in game 1, came back, game 2, he continued to bench Giratinas and Shaymins, and was unable to end me late in the game when I was down to 2 prizes, so I was able to work around the Jolteons, which he struggled to set up, and was able to use Yveltal-EX to take my prizes that way against Giratina and against Shaymin EX late. And then game 3 was just more of the same. He struggled to get his attacks set up. I was able to cherry pick a Shaymin, get myself down to 2 prizes, Lysandered, and then was able to hit his Jolteon that he had, since he only was able to use Swift for 40 damage with a Fighting Fury Belt. So I Evil Balled him for 110. He switched out to a different Jolteon, and then I was able to Lysander off of Versus Seeker yet again on the same Jolteon and Evil Ball it again for another 110 damage, taking it off the board and taking my last 2 prizes. So I overcame a nearly impossible matchup, or at least what seemed like it on paper, to go on to top 4, where I met a Darkrai Yveltal deck, no Garbodor, no Fright Knight, just Oblivion Wing and Darkrai and Yveltal-EX. We went back and forth, and it just kind of seemed like whoever went first was going to end up pulling it out, as I won game 1, and just kind of, again, like I said, back and forth knockouts. He won game 2 off the strength of Pokemon Center Lady and Verse Seeker for Pokemon Center Lady 2 or 3 more times. And then I won the 3rd game just in the nick of time before we would have gone to most prizes or whatever, which I think I was ahead by like 1 prize, but whatever. Was able to close the game out, and so we took the full 60 minutes there, and again, great series I had. And so that took me into the finals, where I played against the same Rainbow Road player that I met in the first round, was able to take game 1 off the strength of going second and getting a first turn Max Elixir double colorless onto a Fright Knight Yveltal. My opponent had benched Mew with a double colorless and brought it up to the active. So I was able to float stone my Yveltal-EX that was in the active, retreat it, and use a Pitch Black Spear to knock out the Mew, get rid of his double colorless, and hit his Shaymin for 60. That just kind of set the table for the rest of the game. The following turn, I Lysandered up a Joltik. Pitch Black Spirit again, took out the Joltik and the Shaymin, was up 4 prize cards just like that. And then game 2, he was able to take control of the game, was able to stream some Rainbow Force attacks using 3 Fairy Energy on each Xerneas, so making them immune to Enhanced Hammer, which played a big role in my struggling to keep up that game in the prize trade, and then was able to close the game out using Galvantula to snipe out an Yveltal-EX that had taken a heavy amount of damage and one of my Shaymins. So that was the thing. And then we went to game 3, and unfortunately for him, he was just dead drawing. It seemed like the entire game. I got 2 Yveltal-EXs again, fully pumped up by the second turn. 3 energies apiece, and was able to take out a couple Xerneas and a Shaymin. And that was pretty much it. He didn't really draw much. So I was able to claim the win. So some close games and some crazy things happened, but ultimately Yveltal Garbodor came through for me on that day. We got first place at a League Cup, 50 championship points, a booster box of evolutions, and we're still waiting for the playmat and promo card to come in, unfortunately. But everything else is good, and so this, as I said, was my list, and I'm going to go ahead and play a game to show it to you guys. Okay, so we see Dark and Colorless, a lot like the top 4 deck, apparently. Curious to see if it's the same thing. No Psychic. So we're going to go ahead and take the first turn here and see what we go up against. We get a Trubbish to start, which is really awesome because it means with the Floatstone we can actually lead with it, put the Yveltal on the bench, and Max Elixir right away. He flips over a baby Yveltal, so we will go ahead and bench our Yveltal-EX, play a Max Elixir, And we got a second one here we might as well go with. Get a couple energy down early. Attach the double colorless. Float stone, and we will N. So, a pretty rock-solid start we're looking at right there. And I think we can just pass from here. Not really a whole lot else that we need to do. And Garbodor is not really a big deal if this is just Darkrai Yveltal. We do see a Darkrai come down, a Trainer's Mail. We'll see where that ends up going. Alright, so there's a Fighting Fury Belt. And, alright, so that's going to go on Darkrai, along with a Darkness Energy. And there's a Shaman, so he gets a setup here for 3 cards. See where that ends up leading to. Another Oblivion Wing Yveltal. Another Trainer's Mail. And, okay, any day now. Any day now. Alright, there's an Ultra Ball. So that works. Ultra Ball, we'll discard, let's see, 2 Darkness. Okay, so he's going to get ready for an Oblivion Wing here. I'm guessing another Shaman is coming out. Oh, another Darkrai. Okay. So that goes onto the board. And there's an N. Okay. I'd be okay with that. So we draw into a pretty solid hand. We get our other 2 Max Elixirs here, which is pretty nice. He gets a Fury Belt on the active Yveltal, but does not get an energy on it, and that is huge. So we're going to bench our Fright Knight here, and we're going to Max Elixir onto it. And we can just throw the double colorless there, retreat, and Pitch Black Spear, and start laying damage on Darkrai. So that's pretty big right there. And since he laid the belt down even bigger, and he could start using Oblivion Wing here. But we're in a pretty decent spot. We got a pretty big Yveltal-EX on the bench. No need to use that Max Elixir just yet. And so we do see another N, which is fine. We find some supporters this time. He plays another Max Elixir. And let's see. Yep, another energy on the same Darkrai. Okay. That's his first one, actually. And we'll see an Oblivion Wing here in a moment, I think. He does also put a Reverse Valley down, which really just helps us. And if he plays one more card, there it is, the Fighting Fury Belt out of his hand, which means we can delinquent him down to 0. Wow. Oh, and it's not even my birthday. Damn. I like that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead. Let's see, we got an energy that we can use, I guess. We can Ultra Ball these 2 away, get another big piece of bacon. Drag that out. And then he'll get an energy. And we're going to delinquent that stadium off the board and get rid of the rest of his hand in the process. Awesome. Awesome sauce. A Center Lady, a Hex Maniac, an Escape Rope. Alright. And then we're going to Pitch Black Spear here. More damage going over onto that Darkrai that is already charged up. As we can get a KO there next turn. And so we see another Oblivion Wing, 30 damage. Another energy probably going over here. Yep. Okay. That's fine. And so we get a Shaman this time, which isn't too shabby. Go ahead and draw some cards here. And, okay, so, I mean, we find a Flare Grunt here, which is pretty relevant. We can use that. And I think we can probably just sit on the rest, because we can Verse Seeker to get it back next turn. We'll Pitch Black Spear, although actually we're just going to KO it, so I don't know why I Flare Grunted that. That was kind of silly. But, we will claim 3 prize cards nonetheless, which is pretty big before our Fright Knight gets KO'd here. So, probably shouldn't have Flare Grunted there, though. That was kind of a boneheaded play. But we're going to get an Yveltal-EX wailing on this Darkrai. He hits a Max Elixir here, gets another Darkrai down. So we do see 1 energy on this one, which means he's hitting us for 90 damage, 80 because of Fright Knight, but that's going to go away now. So Trubbish will come out. And we get a belt for this Yveltal. And let's see. 3 prizes left. We could just pick this thing. But I think we're going to go ahead and just wail on the Darkrai. Go ahead and grab the Flare Grunt back. And then we can retreat. And, alright. Go ahead and discard one of his energies. We got 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 130. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's fine. We're just going to Evil Ball this thing. I really don't see a way that he one-shots us. So, just going to go ahead and lay all the damage on the line. We do see him play another Darkness and a Max Elixir, so he can do 110, but that's it. And then we'd be able to knock him out, so he's going to have to... Okay, he opts not to retreat, so he's going to let himself fall down. He's going to let us get down to 1 prize here. We're going to go Ultra Ball here, discard Trubbish, and... let's see here. The other Yveltal-EX, I suppose. That's fine. Grab Garbodor out of there. And Garbodor is going to be able to lock some things down here. Can also put the baby Yveltal down with a Float Stone. And then we can parallel. Get rid of our Shaman. So that's a big play there. And then a Y Cyclone is going to be enough to KO him. So that's another big key here. So we can start loading up another one. And we're going to Y Cyclone a double colorless off of this thing and onto that benched Yveltal that is already loaded up. Just continue to move energy there. Grab a couple more prize cards. We see a belt. We see a Parallel City. And again, our opponent has no hand and is not doing enough to knock us out. 80 damage, so he's going to come up short. And we should be able to simply retreat here. We can do 120, 140, 160, 170. We need to find one more energy card. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 120, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 160. So we're doing 170 right now. We need to find one more energy card for that Yveltal. And we can just hard retreat here. That's not really a big issue. So we can Ultra Ball here, thin the deck out, just get that Shaman out of there, see how many energy we're sitting on here. 5 Dark and a double colorless is fine. And then we're going to Sycamore. Or actually, well, you know what? Actually, we can just Lysander Shaman. It's easy enough. And retreat. Alright, and then Evil Ball here for the game. Alright, and that'll do the trick. So I don't know why I didn't just realize that before. That's what I was doing against Jolteon. But in any case, Yveltal takes out the Darkrai Yveltal deck, which looked pretty similar to the one I played against in the top 4. Just looked like my opponent didn't draw very well. That Delinquent obviously was a big play. So that is my my deck that I played to get first place at the League Cup here in Columbus, Ohio this past weekend. And anyway, that's what I have for you guys right now. Stay tuned. More deck lists and profiles, games and all that stuff coming as we head towards the Georgia Regional Championships this coming weekend. And then more stuff to come to and from. Pre-releases will follow that up. So good luck to everyone competing down in Georgia this weekend and also in League Cups this coming weekend. And I will see you guys on Friday. Cheers.